All right. So, it is 55 degrees today. It's supposed to be about 70 today. It is 9:30 in the morning. Hello. Good morning to you. So, yesterday was a rough day. Just a rough day. You guys need to be playing that lottery. Our numbers have been hitting all week. 6318. Play it straight box and play Fireball. But anyway, yeah, last night was kind of rough. It was one of those, well, I guess all I can do is go to sleep, and when I wake up, I hope things are better, which they were great. So, Walmart girl has worked for Walmart 20 years at the Fort Walton store, and then I guess her mother or somebody else worked for Walmart for like 40 years or something, and had bought a ton of stocks. So when she retired, she made bank because the stocks had split and split and split. And they give you an option when you file for your payroll to buy stock or not to buy stock and all that for every paycheck. And a lot of the employees back then would buy a little stock here and there. And some of them did real well. I knew a lady that babysat for me in Arkansas years ago that worked for Walmart for just years. And she had told me she owned so many stocks. And I was like, man, you have about enough to take over the company. And she was just proud of it. But I'm sure she's not around anymore. I'm sure she's passed on. But I know she did well. I remember years ago when Cece was just like 5 months old, the stocks were just dirt cheap. They used to have a little sign at the layaway bathroom area. Every day you could look at that sign and it'd tell you what the stock price was today. And I should have bought some back then because I had got a lot of money when I left California, and my friends stole 3/4 of it. My good friends, because I trusted them, and it was a scam. But I got like $33,000, something like that, and on a lawsuit for injury. I fell in a grocery store when I was pregnant. It was really bad, and it didn't pay till after I had left California, and they actually settled out of court, which, you know, I probably shouldn't have done, but I just did it because I was so far away, and it was going to be too much trouble to have to fly back to appear and all that junk. And I had a really great lawyer, and I just told him, I said, you know, maybe I just ought to cash it out. And so we did. He did well, I did well. The doctor got a third, lawyer got a third, I got a third. So it was a shame. As people I did business with all the time next door to my business, but they were real butts the day I fell. And I was absolutely petrified. I was scared to even get up. I thought there was going to be blood all over the floor. And her daddy was right there. Her daddy was called, and he was scared to death. I'll never forget the look on his face. But it paid off great. The only problem is I trusted people I shouldn't have trusted. I'm sure you've done that too. It's a fatal mistake every time. My Aunt Roseanne Cash was real prominent in that town. And they told me, boy, if you take that check to the bank, she's going to know. And that wouldn't be a good thing. I'm like, why? It's my business. My money, my business, and that will help me with my daughter. I could do a lot with that. Buy a car. I could have bought a house. I could have done a lot of stuff, but I trusted these stupid people that I thought were my really good, trustworthy friends, and they were not. And they convinced me to deposit in their account, which, I was too stupid to realize that they were making interest off that money. But I imagine most of it disappeared pretty quick to not even collect interest. But the first thing I did, it was around Christmas time, and I felt sorry for him. He was a mechanic, owned his own shop, and I really liked his wife, Linda. And they had like 5 kids. And I said, look, my daughter was like 5 months old. And I said, let's just go to Walmart and let's get some things for your kids for Christmas. So the first thing I did was buy everybody a bicycle. And they were all like till ages 15, something like that. So we bought everybody a brand new bicycle. And then bought some other junk. Bought a game that I never got to play. I think it was Trivial Pursuit or something like that. A question asking game. It was the newest thing. And bought that, but it was majorly expensive. And then I bought them some groceries. And so that was a big trip. Like 1,000 or so there. And then I would have her write me some checks, like to the utility company and stuff like that. And then I rented the most expensive place in town, but got it on HUD, so I only had to pay like $125 a month or some crazy amount, maybe $200 over Wilkerson's. And then I wanted to buy a car, and he, knew of a car. And then he called me and said, I found you a car, because my aunt had bought a car for me, but it turned out it wasn't really mine. I found that out in the end, but it wasn't nothing. She paid $500 for it. And so he calls me one day and he says, I found you a car. It's out in Salina, and I think you'll like it. Go see this guy. And I went to this little car lot. I think he had about 6 cars out there. And Mike told me that, I could go pick it up. So when I went up there, the car was neat, but it had a different engine. It had a Nova engine put in it. It was a 77 flame red Camaro. It had black carpet, white interior. It was pretty good looking. Didn't have powered windows. The guy claimed it had, just about a new Nova engine in it. And it drove really neat. And I test drove it. And I was ready to take it. And then the guy was like, okay, you need to pay me the money. And I called Mike and I'm like, I thought you paid for the car already. He said, well, I put some down. And then when I asked the salesman guy, or the owner of the car lot, I said, well, so how much do I owe you? And then he was telling me I owed him like $3,800 or something like that. And I said, well, that's after what Mike paid? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, how much did Mike pay? And he would never tell me. So I don't think Mike paid anything. I think it was just a scam. And so anyway, I liked the car, and they were hard to come by in the South, because after living in California, with all the pretty cars and stuff. And that was kind of a dream car of mine. And I was old enough to have one now without getting in a lot of trouble, I would say. And so I I called Mike and told him to come down and send Linda down with a check and pay for it in full. Which I'm sure I got robbed on that deal too. So I got that, registered it, and kind of kept it under covers. And I had the salon then, and so I would switch cars. And I had some guy that came to my house one day and knocked on the door, and like everybody knows everybody there and everything. This one I was in Oklahoma, and so he said, I came by because I thought I could help you with the top for that big car, and this big chocolate brown Mercury Marquis, and it was much like a big Lincoln, but it ran, and my aunt paid for it, and then she also paid the insurance on it, which the insurance I think was in my name. And so I said, yeah, it really does need a top. It's been sitting outside and it was cracking up and it had that split Landau on it. And so he said, oh yeah, and he's giving me the big hype, telling me, oh, okay, we can do this, do that. And I said, God, that'd be great, because I'm getting ready to give her that car back, because I don't even think it's in my name or anything, and I want it nicer than what I got. And so he says, well, it's going to be $250 to do the top. And so I thought, well, that's not too bad. And so I said, well, I don't have the cash on me right now, but come back another day. When are you going to start it? And he goes, well, I can do it pretty quick. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, he come back a couple days later, knocked on the door, and it really seemed like a great guy. And so he says, all right, do you have the money? And I said, are you going to start the car today? And he said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I can give you so much off, like 75 or 100 off, if you'll strip the top yourself, and then I'll give you a break on it. And I'm like, okay, cool. So anyway, I give him some cash, 100 something or all of it, I don't remember, as it was years ago. And so I'm out busting butt for the next week trying to clean up that Landau. And I got, like all it off. Now it's down to glue and like partially painted and all that. And it looked really bad, but I got it off really well. So I was really excited to put the new top on. And the sucker never come back. And everybody knew him, but he never come back. So it was a scam. So now I've just trashed the car and paid a guy to do a job that's never come back. This is what happens when you're a single parent, and you have a brand new baby, and people will just suck you dry. And you're trying to be kind and help people and pay them for their time, and they rip you off. So never got anything done out of that. And I needed to really take the car to Tulsa to get somebody good to put a decent top on it, because I just don't want to let anybody do it or they'll trash it up. And in the meantime, Roseanne found out about the 77 flame red Camaro, kind of obvious, because I drove that most of the time, especially in the bad weather with the snow. God, that big car was horrible in the snow. Those big cars will fishtail, and it is so scary in the snow. It will freak you out. It's like, piloting the Titanic, and it's just going to go wherever. Well, is it scary? And then that Camaro, I put those big wide tires on the back and all that stuff, and I put a tranny cooler in, and did all kinds of trick stuff to it, and that thing could handle the snow and ice like you couldn't imagine. It was really the best car for those weathers, even though everybody kind of laughed at me and went, oh, you're a mom, and you have a like, so who gives a crap? Do you think I'd be driving around a station wagon? Psh, really? My dad used to make jokes about that. He used to talk about my baby sister and go, well, I guess they've gotten married and, you know, they're going to have a little house with a white picket fence and drive a station wagon. And I was like, ew. And, what you know, I'm going to tell you, you know, my dad had some interesting sayings, and I don't know that he ever did that actually when we were kids, but he might have and maybe really hated it. I don't know. I just don't know. Never asked him. But I mean, some people's trash is another person's treasure. So that's what makes life interesting. We unplug this power so I don't get this phone too hot. But you know, some people like all that. My baby sister and her husband are still together to this day. They've been together since she was like 15. And they are like, they so Ozzy and Harriet, you know, if you've ever heard of them. If not, look them up on YouTube and watch one of their shows. They're just really different people. They're very from the church. Everything's real calm, and it's like a sitcom, an old-timey sitcom, hanging out with them or visiting with them. She's got a little more hip in the years, and she actually cussed once, which I was about floored one time when she cussed about something, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this coming from my baby sister? Because she's like so straight. I could not even believe that. It was hilarious. And not that that's a good thing. It's just she just you know, this is a girl that doesn't use a curling iron, and you know, she had her hair cut in a Farrah Fawcett, and the whole idea to cut your hair like that is to curl it, and she didn't do that. And she never painted her nails. She's never worn platforms. She never wore bell bottoms. She's just very different. I don't think she ever wore makeup, ever, at all. And she was just different. I mean, when she was married, one of the times she came visit me, she had on like hush puppy loafers and plaid pants and you know, like old lady clothes, and I was like, oh my gosh. And she drove a little tiny Ford, and it was different, you know. I was like, it was just different, because I was, you know, like everything that sparkles and glitters, and you know, I was in the fashion industry, and you know, I hit every disco in the state of California, from San Francisco all the way to San Diego. There's not one dance floor I missed. And I worked, and I mean, geez, went to college and all that good stuff. But anyway, so back to this other story. I got distracted here. Anyway, so as time goes on, then Mike wanted to, and this is what's weird, these people had an open marriage. And being California, I grew up around people that were swingers and would go pick up people so they could watch people do stuff, and really kink masters, really strange off the wall stuff. I was like, oh yeah, okay. And I knew people personally that were gay and stuff like that, which that didn't bother me. I had some very close gay friends, and you know, they would make suggestions at times, and I would say, look, you keep that in your bedroom. I'll be your friend, just keep me out of it, thanks, but I'll still love you. You know, you'll still be my friend. But anyway, so they had this open marriage, and he dated me for a while, and he was really an adorable character. And you know, he had the comb back Elvis hair, and he had a great smile, great eyes. He was funny. And his wife was just real plain Jane, but she was a really neat person too. And it was kind of interesting. I mean, we weren't doing the 3 thing or anything. I don't do chicks. But yeah, so one day we were riding in the car, me, Mike, and Linda. They had the most beautiful white Cadillac. And She drove it all the time. And so I think that was the only car they had at that time. And so when I met them, their house was just wiped out by a tornado and rebuilt in 2 weeks with all the friends and neighbors, and they got it in a box, open it up and put it all together, boom boom, like an instant house thing. And it was awful pretty. And they had, you know, lived in a trailer or something on the property for a while until they could get that done. And they had a beautiful home in Salina, Oklahoma. And so anyway, I don't even know if those people are still alive, but anyway, one day Mike and Linda and I were riding in their car. I was in the back seat, and you know, after a few minutes time, then Mike says to me, he was driving, and he says, hey, I was wondering if I could borrow some money to buy a wrecker, because it would help me really a lot to run wrecker in Oklahoma and Arkansas. See, and what I know today, I don't think you can run a different state. I think you can only buy one state at a time to run wrecker, because I've learned a lot since then. So I think he was lying. And so anyway, so many tourists. Anyway, he said it would really help me out. I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, I can make bank doing all these tow truck calls, because, you know, it's out in the booners and nobody around to do it. And, you know, you had to call into Pryor to get somebody, and I'm out here and right by the state line, and I could make bank. And I said, God, that's great. Next line was, come on, if you're going to go, just go. Jesus Christ. There's 2 people in the back up, and I'm sitting here in the bad zone where they can just T-bone me. Ugh. I let one go. I'm going after the next. I'm going over here. So anyway, he says I need $5,000. I said, that's great. And a few minutes later, he says, can I borrow $5,000 so I can buy this tow truck? And I'm like, God, that's a lot of money. Because, see, when my daughter was born, a new Camaro was $6,000 or less for a new one. And, but anyway, I said, well, because Mike was being kind of a poo-poo head, and I really didn't want to loan it to him because I didn't trust him. And so I said, well, I'll loan it to Linda, but I won't loan it to you. And you know, we had gone over the book so many times of my so-called money, and she would just show me this ledger of all this stuff with totals and all that. I'm like, there's no way. I mean, I got like a total of a red Camaro and like $2,000 out of all that money. I'm telling you. So they were ripping me off big time. And so anyway, later, when I decided I wanted to cash it out and put it in the bank, and I didn't give a damn. I was a big girl. I was of age. I had the right to my own money. If Roseanne didn't like it too damn bad, who cares? I had already moved out of that place and stopped managing the apartments, because in the end, she had one of the other girls in the office really managing it, and I was doing all the dirty work, answering people's complaints 24 hours a day in the middle of the night, and then cleaning up apartments that were foul. It was like I got all the trashy work in exchange for living there free, and free utilities and phone. But I run the crap out of my phone bill. I had a terrible, terrible phone bill. I had so much trouble leaving California, and I was on that phone. And the long distance services, I don't care which one you use, you're just going to spend a ton of money. And I really abused it, spending every night talking to friends from California, crying on the phone because I just couldn't stand the place. It was so Deadsville, no beach, nothing fun to go to. And it wasn't so much about going out clubbing or anything. It was just, if I wanted to take my daughter to a fair or something like that, it was like I had to drive, an hour or two to Tulsa and spend the day and then get back before too much nightfall because the roads were so dark and desolate. And, they had deer out there and stuff and cows that were wandering the streets. And so, uh, um, I tore up the phone bill evil bad. Abusive, okay? Just abusive. And she paid all that. And so, one day I was down at the salon and this witch that was one of the main girls in the office down there in Pryor at my aunt's office that she owned for abstracting business. She came to my salon and she says, "Hi, I need the keys to the car." And I said, "To what car?" And she says, "To the brown car." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, Roseanne wants the keys to the car. She wants the car back." And I said, "Okay, fine." So I gave her the keys to the car, which I had them on my key ring. I was with a customer, but I had them on my key ring and gave them to her. And she just left. And it was like she felt power, because she was coming to repo that car. Well, the unfortunate thing was, and I waxed that car so much that Mike and them used to make fun of me and said, "You keep waxing on that car, you're going to wax dents into it and wax the paint right off of it." And I was like, "Well, I like to keep it clean." They salted the roads there and stuff and all that. And there's a lot of dirt roads and all that. And I was just a fanatic about a clean car. Although I lived in town, but I always went to the lake on the weekend and stuff like that with my baby. My aunt had a beautiful glass house on the lake in Salina. And, of course, my good friends were out there, Mike and Linda. And then, so, the next word was how Roseanne was so pissed that I trashed the car like I had done it intentionally. And I think that Mike had told her a lot of that, too, later, because, to get back at me, because, he got more weird and more weird, and as time went on, they did take that $5,000, but they took all the rest of the money. I didn't have crap left. I think she wrote me a check for like $1,200 or something. I went to go put it in the bank. Out of all that money, thousands of dollars, and it was like, this can't even be right, and so they really scammed me. And that was really bad because I was a single parent. I didn't get child support. And I that money was truly a blessing. That money belonged to my daughter. And, these people just stole it. Trying to be my friends and stole it. And it got worse as it went along. I wanted to pay the water bill at the shop. And I thought, well, it's $60. I said, I might as well call Mike and start collecting on that money. On that $5,000 for those tow trucks that I so-called gave to Linda as a loan. And so I called up there and I said, "Hey," I said, "could I get $60 for my water bill at the shop?" And he said something cocky, and I said, "Well, I loaned you guys $5,000 for the tow truck. What you got?" They got bright red, real nice tow truck. And I said, "You've had it for a little while." I said, "So, plus you have your own mechanic shop and everything." And I said, "I could sure use $60 out of that money unless you have it all." And he's like, "No, and guess what? If you freaking call me again, I will pick up, I still had Roseanne's car. Says, I will pick up the brown car and dump it in the lake." And I was like, "What? Are you serious or joking?" And he was like, "No, I'm just telling you. Trust my word. If you ask me for that money again, I will pick up your car and dump it in the lake." And I'm like, So here's a cat. It owes me $5 grand plus, because they stole all that other money. Which that would have set me so good. I was looking at some houses, and there was a house I wanted to buy, a big round house in Pryor that was really so cool. And I didn't get to do any of that. I did have about 10 pair of shoes I got on sale for like $2.50 a pair one time at the Walmart. And they were just the prettiest things, the little Mary Jane shoes. And so I bought one of every color for the next several sizes up, so I would have them ready because these kids grow so fast. And so it was just wonderful. Those were stacked up in the closet. So, I was, prepared there. I bought fabric, and was sewing avidly and made everything my daughter wore except for her pantyhose. And, I had the salon then, and I was doing really well. I even brought my daughter up there on the weekends and put her in a playpen. It was just fabulous. And so it was a shame. I thought those people were really good friends. And some other weird things happened kind of along the way. They liked to come out to my auntie's house, for the weekend or whatever, because they were not far away, and it was a big luxury, thing. She had the nicest house on the lake, and so they all wanted to come out, and Cletus and Jerry, which Jerry just passed away a couple years ago, and Mike and Linda and all that, and I stopped drinking after my daughter was born, and as I decided the party was over, and I wanted to be super sober to watch my kid. So anyway, my daughter, I think she was at the sitter, or Mike's kids were going to watch her for a little bit. And so next thing you know, they had got me drunk, and we were barbecuing and stuff over at Roseanne's house, and this is X-rated, and Mike and I were in the bedroom, and then I opened my eyes, and Cletus is over the top of me, and that scared the living poo-poo out of me, because I was hearing his voice, and he's like, I can't do it, and I was like, oh my God, they were going to play the switcheroo on me, because I always close my eyes, oh my God. People will take advantage of you, I swear. But Cletus didn't do it. He backed out of it. And they at first thought that was going to be real fun. And then I noticed how the two